Hey everyone! With the new fresh season, we got a bunch of different weapon kits, some with entirely new specials. So today, I wanted to try each of them out and talk a little bit about how I think about using them in-game and where they might be good. So, let's give them all a try. Alright, so first with the new Tri-Slosher. I really like this kit, it's got the soda vibe to it, and I think it's going to be a really powerful niche. If you can get close to people is always where Tri-Slosher is really good. It's great against short-range shooters and just kind of walling out space very reliably. It's very difficult for the shots to miss. And here we have a 180p Tacticooler, and Tacticooler is normally something that's not too good right now, but it's mostly just been on, like, hard support weapons. This thing is much more aggressive, and so it doesn't really take as much of a mainline special on your comp. So it's much easier to slot in, and it's just so effective there. You know, you go in, you get a bunch of trades, it's what the weapon's good at, and then you come back faster. Okay, unfortunately they had a DC, and the enemy team literally stopped playing, so we'll do one more with this one. Another nice part of this kit is the Fizzy to, like, get your cooler. Something like Octobarch also has to poke in order to get it special, but Fizzy is just so much better at painting, it's so much cheaper, it's easier to throw out, and honestly, it's even more useful in combat since you can kind of use it as a little paint trail, like if I roll like this, and I can just walk forward with it. Just unbelievable, the sub synergy between the main sub and special are so useful. It's such a strong kit on the places you want to run it on. That guy's in a corner. I think I'm just going to store. Ooh, can we get this? Nice. Now, obviously, Clash is the stereotype of being a very easy weapon, but I'm going to tell you how to play around it anyway. The main weakness of this weapon is really its kill time. With the indirects, it's just really slow, and you have to be up close to really kill with directs, so you want to be taking advantage of cover and trying to find spots where you can hit enemies and they can't hit you. So like down here, we're going to poke, get damage off, and then I can think about chasing and kill if they back off or something like that. And it also allows you to kind of pre-fire, and if people run directly at you like that, they'll end up getting hit with directs, and you'll kill them a bit faster. And then Chump is basically your way in. Keep in mind, it's less about moving enemies, it's more just you want to have them as kind of mini shields, so now if they run at me, they have to worry about maybe they'll get chipped by the chumps, maybe I'll be able to get a kill on them that way, stuff like that. So always good to be aware of it. It's kind of like a bunch of mini shields. They don't seem to have that much HP, but trust me, it will add up. And then just playing spots like this where you can play these angles, not rushing fights. And there we go, we were able to hold in front for quite a long time. Curling can be a bit useful to help you paint a little bit, since the main weapon does really struggle. It has some of the worst paint in the game, and it can be used for mobility, but do be careful you're not falling into enemy terrain too easily. Like here, I'm going to more hesitate, check the corner, play the bunker, rather than just charging in ahead first. There's no real reason for me to force that right away, and curling isn't going to help me deal with the enemies as much. It's more going to slowly get me in here. And we got weakened by the other Clash, got a heal, bubble, that's going to be a problem for us. We'll just chump our way in first. Just give them a bunch of stuff to deal with, and there we go, we can make it in, take care of the other Clash again, and now we're set up real nicely, have our chumps helping out, and we can just kind of hold these ledges are really good for Clash, honestly. Mance is a very strong map for this weapon, so definitely really useful here, just good to poke and hold and control these spaces. Now listen here, I'm not great with chargers, so this gameplay is going to be pretty bad no matter what I say, but you do want to try to hold aggressive sidelines. The whole idea, even for someone like me, who can't really hit shots very well, is going to be trying to control space so people back off. You see the Jet Squasher gives up space when I look at him, that kind of thing is what you want to do, apply that pressure constantly. And this kit's really good at helping with that. Wall can kind of let you stand in situations like this, where I can be a bit worried about being rushed, but because of the wall, got some protection, can kind of hold on here, and get the roller when he pops up. And then also, Tri-Strike is really nice on the backline, honestly. The vulnerability the special has is much smaller here. Allows you to get them off much more easily. There's another one. And now we can go back to a more typical position. Miss an easy shot, but there we go. There we go. Okay, get the Jet Squelcher. I personally prefer Unscope, but honestly you can do either. Unscope's a little bit more aggressive, but Scope has a bit more range for contesting other anchor weapons, so really depends on personal preference. Here we're going to lob Tri-Strike a bit. Oh, they have Zip, so make sure you hold your charge on a Zip caster. That way when they pop up over the wall, you can shoot them there. They're always a bit vulnerable. I made a mistake peeking via the charger, but still, always keep that in mind. Another thing you can do with Zip caster is kind of just play near your team, so they're more likely to help you, rather than being too far away. If I didn't hit the shot, I'd probably just try to go near my junior, for instance, and let them help me out with that Zipcaster. Don't want to use wall when I don't need to. It is still very ink hungry, and it doesn't paint a lot. And considering you're a 210 Tri-Strike, you do want to be a bit careful about that. You don't want to overuse the wall. Here's a good spot to do it, though. Get the ink tank refill, and now this blocks for me. I can kind of wait, and I don't have to worry about the vulnerability with Tri-Strike. You can see it tanks the charger. Such good sub synergy there. Now, Crack on Roller is a bit tricky here. I don't want to discuss too much gear in this video, but having a little bit of charge up to get Kraken might be helpful. It's kind of the way you get in. So the main problem with it having Beacon is just it's really difficult to actually get your weapon in, and since you don't paint very well, it takes a while to get the special that does force you in. But beacons do still have a use. We'll get to that, though. Do be sure we still set up beacons when you get the chance. It's still useful for you and your team to regroup if something goes wrong. When you have Kraken, it's time to go for it. You want to be a little careful to try to pop Kraken when you absolutely have to. You know, holding that duration for a little bit's useful. Make sure you take advantage of the fact that you can squid roll after your charge attack. It's really useful to chase people down. And I just went in this time. I still went down, but we pushed the enemy team all the way far back there. And you can see my team starts to take some mid control. That's part of what makes Kraken so powerful. Even if you don't get kills, it still forces people away and to deal with you. Now I can kind of set up my beacons more aggressively and kind of take advantage of the recon effect here. Like this guy's going to go on the wall, and I can get a pick on him and then clear up his beacon so he can't come back. And yeah, we can see that we're slowly moving the beacons up as we get map control so our teammates can jump further and further to the front. Here we're just going to Kraken kind of hold space, really. One of them gives me a kill though, which is good, but main thing here is just trying to keep the enemy team away from mid, keep us having that map control, and then we didn't really lose ground even though we went 2 down, and now we might be in a situation to push if my teammate were in that fight. Nice. We're going to have Kraken, so we honestly don't even really need to give up too much space here. We can kind of wait a bit patiently and use Kraken to retake. Okay, I'm just going to push up here so that their team has a hard time dealing with it. If this guy's still here, we can get him out. And now we're still behind them. That's what makes this special so good here. We use it, we take space, and then we set up. And now the enemy team has to come back. They're throwing torpedoes at us. And we're just taking resources. So I'll be honest, out of all of the new weapons they added this update, L3 kind of has the hardest playstyle. The main reason is that this is a weapon that turfs fairly, like, safely and far away, and even has burst bomb to, like, chip and threaten a combo if people try to run at you. So, you know, if, like, a Tetra goes toward you, you can kind of ward them away, for example. The problem is, throughout all of that, you're farming a stand, which would be fine if the special was actually good. Unfortunately, it's just not right now. I find it best to try to hug some cover and use it to distract and take space, or if absolutely nothing else, just use the throw mode, the one good part about the special. But in its current state, it makes this weapon really difficult to carry with in solo queue. Like, you have to be a very dedicated player of the weapon, really get your burst combos down. And that's kind of the thing. Normally, weapons that can paint very well and very safely are very nice to play passively, especially in solo queue, because you got a lot of specials, and that special can help get you or your team in. But when you don't have that, you're going to have to switch to being more aggressive at the right times, and that's where being very comfortable with the weapon will help out a lot. And I prefer to be really aggressive with Cooler. You can see this thing is very nice with a little bit of run speed. Like, the run speed from the Cooler makes you straight so fast. I can just kind of sit here, and as soon as they try to get out, I'm going to use Stamp to kind of stall it a bit. You'll see I'm not really going for a kill, unless this guy stays in the corner for some reason. I'm mostly just using it to kind of threaten things. We have enough clams to win here, so at this point I'm just going to walk in front, try to take attention, get a couple of kills, sure, and there we go. Post-edit Chara here. I'd like to tell you guys about a Splatoon local coming to New York City called the Big Apple 2 on April 1st. If you're in the area and are debating checking it out, it's a really cool LAN event. There'll be room for up to 16 teams and you can play in front of a live crowd. And if you're not competing, there's a bunch of PlayStations, a mic to be able to do couch casts, merch tables, raffle prizes, food, and more. It's just a nice local event, and you can find more info about it in the description and on start.gg/BigApple2. Anyway, let's get back to the gameplay. Zap is honestly really fun. This kit's very similar to Splatoon 2's, but honestly plays differently. Like with the Zap 85 kit, it really pushes this to be more of an aggressive support and an enabler, and I think that makes a lot of sense for Zap with its high strafe speed and stacking with run speed. The main way to use chumps is kind of as mini meat shields, so you'll see I'll kind of launch them in an area I want to push in, and then use them as cover. I'll kind of like sit behind this, for example, and shoot at people, and if they try to shoot back, they'll get hit, and if they ignore the chumps, they explode, and I just get a bunch of paint control. So very similar in the sense of the 85, where the special kind of promotes you to go in more with your team, and it's just really fun. For these kind of aggressive support type weapons, it's just important to remember when you want to go in. Sometimes it's better to play defensively, cover flanks, get map control, pick up clams, like right now, and kind of just wait for the right opportunity, and then when your team's pushing in, that's when you want to help. Like here, my whole team's moving forward, and so I want to go and fight with my team. I want to walk in at the same time and make sure I'm contributing rather than painting a different corner. Then once we get time, regroup, get some clams, launch the chumps in the front, and be able to just push in even further. And you can see here, again, going to provide some cover for me. I can walk in, and then if they ignore it, it's going to paint the entire map. It's just so useful. Autobomb's another underrated part of this kit. I haven't seen many people talk positively about this bomb. The location's so nice, and this is so cheap. You can see I'm just kind of throwing it out whenever, and you really want to do that for a weapon like this that's pretty efficient. And just throw it to mildly annoy someone, throw it to paint something, check an area, you know, whenever you're going around. So here I'm kind of just painting and going around passively, but I'm constantly throwing autobombs, constantly having that added pressure, and that's part of what makes the sub good. You can do that so easily, so often with how cheap it is. And in general, location stuff is much more useful in this game than it is in Splatoon 2, so that's a small, like, indirect buff for autobombs. Very useful here. Jump, we got the autobombs to help us out, running in, there's so many different things here. Really a struggle for their team to deal with it all. It's very useful. And we're just going to clean up this side of the map, get our clams in right in time. Nice, nice, nice. Then just go back, kind of cover our teammate scoring, make sure the brush can't get to anyone near the basket. Oh, we go down there, that's been unfortunate, but definitely enough time. One thing I didn't get the chance to show off in the match is if you have last-ditch effort or a little bit of sub-saver, it's around 1.1, you could double autobomb, use the chump, launch it immediately, throw another autobomb, and run in. And then you have a bunch of little autobombs helping while you have the chumps everywhere. It's such a useful combination. This kit's so fun. So if I had to describe Custom Jet in 2 words, it is area denial, long-range shots, toxic mist, ink storm. You have so many things to try to deny the enemy space, and with 180 points for special, you can get it frequently. This is a weapon that is built to keep enemies off your team while being at very low risk itself. It's not really an anchor weapon that needs much help. You know, can move fairly quickly, it paints, it, you know, it just doesn't really need much help, so it can afford to dedicate all its resources to its team and really enable them, and that's kind of what makes it special. Obviously, it still lacks the range or some of the other extreme attributes of other backlines, but it definitely makes up for it, and the 180p Inkstorm in particular is what makes this fit so well. Once your storm is done, it's so quick to get another. Besides that, for Jet, you do want to be very active, like shooting at enemies, painting over your teammates, throwing mist at opponents, so you don't want to be far away enough to where you can't help with the fight is kind of the main thing. You have to make sure your positioning still relatively close to your team compared to other backlines. You want to be much more kind of in front and ready to help out. And that's especially true when you have Rain up. Rain makes you 3-shot so easily because you need barely any damage, so it's really kind of a tool to go in and be more aggressive. That is how the special is built to be used for this weapon. And so, you know, you want to be up front when that's going off. I do a really good job picking on Nautilus. It's one of the matchups that's great for that weapon, and there's my excellent power clam tossing skills. Okay. My teammate's already getting clams, so I'm going to help in the front, shift this bucket, have mist in front of the main choke point, you know, get some shots over there on the reflux, and just help the Kraken take care of the main threats, and we're good. So for 96, especially in openings, I think it's really important to play around your Kraken. You're kind of like a chart with this weapon. You sit behind a wall, you shoot really far, and your shots do damage, but they're also very, very inaccurate and unreliable. That's part of why the wall helps so much. Like, I'll set up here, I'll paint a bit, and then as soon as they're about to get near me, then I pop Kraken. And at that point, it's just chasing people down. Defensively, you really want to set up somewhere you can kind of pressure where the objective is going, where I'm going to paint over and kind of thread to shoot them if they climb the check. I'm going to peek my wall here because they don't really have a lethal bomb there outside of the Squelcher, who will oftentimes not have it, so that's something there. But as soon as you have Kraken again, I really want to go aggressive. Don't pop it immediately. Like, here I'm going to pressure for it, but I don't need it yet. Like, they're going to back off for me. And that's great, because that means I can Kraken way further in. And now they have to deal with this, and we can just go after the crab user, and now we're like way in their spawn. We can use the chumps as a bit of added cover, just wall. And once you get in like this, don't get too greedy. Just protect yourself, hold this area, let your team walk in, and just be a turret they cannot afford to run at. And you'll get better opportunities this way. It's really useful. We're getting a nice streak of kills here. Gonna try to break a crab. It'll probably take forever, but at least he'll shoot at me maybe. And we're just gonna try to finish this push all the way. Get the pop, so I'm trying to get a Kraken as fast as possible. Because they're all so clumped up that Kraken's going to get huge value here. So here we go. Going to block for our Rainmaker first. Come back for him. Make sure you don't leave your Rainmaker here. You have a giant invincible tank. You got to try to use that. Probably dead here. Just going to stall my death as much as possible with the wall. Maybe we can get out of this actually. This might be okay. Sploosh, get back out there and just... Like, if they don't kill you, you'll get more Krakens. They eventually have to push you. We were able to stall for a long time there. That was really good. Down. Yeah, the overall gameplay loop of this weapon, really simple. Setup, wall, paint, control space, get Kraken, use that to push new space, then use your wall and your turret capabilities to maintain that space. It's a very slow playstyle. You only really go really aggressive when you have the Kraken, but it's very effective, especially with how good Kraken is right now. Just really a solid way to play the game. You can push mid here. Got 2 hits on different people, so I'm just going to Kraken, because if they're low, you can actually kind of combo that. So opponents being low can actually be really good for you here. Oh wow, that guy jumped out in time, that's been unfortunate. But you can see there, the jump attack actually combos pretty well with the main shots. Cool little bit of special main weapon synergy that obviously didn't exist in Splatoon 1 with it being a one-shot. So if you guys followed me in Splatoon 2, you'll know that Kensa was my most used kit in that game. Not most used main weapon, that was technically probably spread across 2 kits. And you know, I didn't really play much of the other Rapids that much, and you haven't seen me play Rapid much in this game either. And really, what makes this Rapid kit fun for me is Torpedo, and the ability to kind of roll Torp and do a combo just like that. It's so fun and satisfying. You just bounce it off a wall or a floor. I have some clips of it in Splatoon 2 of just doing spots like that over and over. It's so fun, and the main difference to this has been Inkjet. I can definitely see why they gave it this special. It is... Jesus, I almost got their whole team there. I get the roller? Okay, cool. I'll take it. Rare Inkjet W. But this special is kind of made to increase that aggressive potential. Pretty much exactly like that is probably what the devs want you to do. The main downside is just that Inkjet is still very slow, very vulnerable. It's bad at damaging objects. It's just one of the weaker specials in the game. So kind of like L3, this is a weapon where I think over time, as the special gets buffed and better, it will definitely see more use, but for the time being is a bit more difficult. I still have way more hope for this weapon over L3 for sure. I think Inkjet meshes with it much better and is definitely much more usable than something like Ultra Stamp. But it's definitely hard. You really want to be aggressive with the pressure you do. You want to kind of be careful with your Ink Tank and threaten Torp combos a lot. You can see just how threatening and scary that can be. Until they pop a Kraken. Now, the Thrown Torpedo is still useful. It's good for poking and scouting people, especially if you're on an angle, because then the Torp will be harder to shoot down. So definitely still do use that. If you don't have a combo to go for, it's totally fine to throw the Torp. And honestly, them having to shoot down Torpedo can make it a bit easier for you to get your 3-shot kill-off, since that is a bit slow normally. And another thing you can do that could be quite useful is using your Torpedo to set up your Inkjet. Let me just clear this roller from the corner here. There we go. So, for example, I'm going to Inkjet up on their plat, so I'm going to Torpedo first. That gives them something else to shoot at and can kind of set up my Inkjet. And there you go. You can see it work out right there. Really useful, and we're just going to pressure this Squelcher into our team. And hopefully they don't remember about my recall. There we go. We managed to get away. Just to kind of show off how ridiculous a Torpedo combo's range is. Like... it's so useful for this thing. So new Sploosh is kind of complicated. It's a very fast beacon weapon with a special to get in, so I mean, it makes some sense, but this weapon has such little painting range that it doesn't really work out super well, and this isn't a weapon that really wants to play for beacon of all things, so it's a very strange kit. A lot of solo queue players, especially in Splatoon 2 with the missile version, like to play it to kind of flank behind people, set up beacons, and just spam missiles. I hate to break it to you guys, but that playstyle isn't actually good. It falls apart very soon at higher ranks, and it's kind of detrimental to learn. Squid School talked about it in his video on Neo Solution. I definitely recommend that. So, how do you play this thing? Well, you do still want to have to try and flank, but then kind of set up beacons, work on Killer Whale, or just try to get an angle on people, and utilize the insane speed of the main weapon to just get in and out of situations most weapons would easily go down in. It's not an amazing strategy, but it's what the weapon kind of resorts to. If you are defending and get Whale, you can use that to get your team in, but honestly, Whale doesn't have as much synergy with this thing as you might think. It's really useful for weapons like Nova, where it can increase the kill time quite easily, but this thing doesn't really have a kill time problem, and you're not going to chip people at a distance. So I'd mostly use Whale to kind of help my team get in and push with them, and they'll probably get better value off of it than you will yourself. Like with Krakon, the beacons are at least still nice to help regroup, so if you get pain control, it's not too bad. But Krakon got a Kraken that could get you behind people. It's not quite the same here, unfortunately, with Whale. Definitely go for weapons like Rapid, though. Weapons that have to rely on strict spacing are what you want to run at there. Like, even when I messed up the kill, like, that guy just has to move away. Chargers are another example. Anything that can't deal with fast weapons are the things you want to try and go for, since those won't be much of a problem for you, even with the bomb you lack. You can just close the gap so easily, because Sploosh accelerates a bit faster than other main weapons, and it's also just one of the fastest weapons in the game. Low startup, low end lag, lightweight. It's got all that. 2 down. At this point, really want to go in with the whale, and just to secure some kills. You can see, it is still a very helpful special when your team pushes with it, don't get me wrong. I just do wish they picked something that would help the Sploosh specifically a little bit more. But hey, they didn't give it missiles, so that's a positive, right? And there we go, guys. That's all the new weapons they added in the fresh season. It was really fun and cool, and for the most part, I like the kits they added. There were definitely some unfortunate parts, but a lot of pieces that worked together. Right, they put this thing in the game. So, this is a weird Tenatech, but I guess we can play it too. Okay though, joking aside, are there any major differences here? Mainly, it's the suction bomb. It's better for controlling space, whereas spot bomb is better to kind of fight with, and so it's more of a supportive thing, and that's definitely where this kind of leans like a bit more passive than a Tenatech. Even then though, you have the perfect jump accuracy and lightweight mobility compared to T-Tech, so I wouldn't even say its aggressive power is that much worse. Honestly, you can still be a mix of going in and being more passive, and it really just depends on your individual playstyle. Like with T-Tech, it's very flexible. So one thing I will recommend, it's similar to T-Tech players, if you're going to push them with your strikes, kind of throw them high. That way they're exploding while you're in the zone. So you can see here I'm playing off it, taking advantage of the cover and the damage to immediately take space rather than being really far away. That's part of the challenge of Tri-Strike on more aggressive weapons like this. It can leave you vulnerable, and you also need to push in with your own strikes, especially in solo queue. Yeah, still honestly not too much to add here. If you've played T-Tech, it's very similar, so not really too much different. And that's all the kits though. Let me know which is your favorite, and I'll do a ranking of these from worst to best in a future video. Thank you so much for watching.